What's up, Lemonheads? Welcome to another episode of From the Yellow Chair. I'm Crystal. And guys, listen, I don't normally like fangirl, but when people truly live a life that you used to live, being a internal CMO, though he manages much larger accounts, this is going to be a great conversation all about marketing, internal CMO style vibes. So settle in, grab some lemonade, and let's sip some lemonade together. All right, Matt Tyner, I'm so excited to have you on the show. You know, I follow all of the comments that you put out there, all of your postings on LinkedIn and socials, because it just always resonates with my soul about marketing for the home service industry. So welcome.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad to be here so we can talk a little bit marketing.
Yeah, I mean, we wake up every day and we do this every single day, right? So I know that you are now. So I've known you for a hot minute at least. Of you came from the HVAC side, now you're on the roofing side, but you're the chief marketing officer for Bone Dry Roofing and its family of brands. But tell us a little bit like how you got into this industry. You know, things that have shaped your whole marketing perspective.
Yeah, so I kind of fell into the industry. Wasn't planning on it. Wasn't a family thing. The common ways. My senior year at Butler, I had a year-long internship at Delta Faucet Company, but it happened to be around the time when the housing market crashed, and that did not bode well for faucet manufacturers. So they obviously had a hiring freeze. Loved it there. Actually, my two managers there put me in contact with folks in the HVAC space, and I was lucky enough to get a job. I was a carrier territory manager for a period of time and loved that, but just the fulfillment wasn't there for me personally. I know a lot of people that have done very well with it and have done amazing things, but just for me personally, I really like the marketing side and the building of a business. And so from there, I went to work for one of my customers, actually, which at the time was HVAC.com, now Contractor Commerce. Was business development there, helped grow that from 2 to 16 million on the e-commerce side. This was before Contractor Commerce was a thing. And so that was a ton of fun. Loved it. Loved learning the e-commerce side of marketing and what all that entails. And but wanted to get on the contractor side. I was like, you know what? I've now done the distribution side. I've done the e-commerce side. Now let's go to the contracting side to see what that's all about. So worked with a contractor out of Cincinnati and Lexington, really just redeveloping out their marketing and sales strategy and team. And figuring out how to get some things corrected. They saw some downturns in their revenue the year prior. We were able to get it boosted plus 1 million, and on a $7 million business at that time was a meaningful adjustment. And unfortunately during that time, my dad passed away, and perspective hit, and it's like, all right, life, right? We've got to make some moves just for family and everything like that. So my wife and I made the decision. We're both from the same small farm town in Indiana, so we moved back to Indianapolis, and I've been here ever since. Was blessed to get a job with Marsha Barnes at Valve and Meter, where I was their VP of marketing, really focusing on the their home services portfolio and building out the marketing strategy and plans for their clients on that side. But then from there, went to work for Max Service Group, which was acquired in 21 by Wrench Group. Had a great time there building the business from, let's see, when I started, it was 56 million. We took it to 112 million in a couple of years. It was an absolute blast. Loved it. Good people, good company, good customers. It was just a perfect mix. But wanted to make a little bit of a move back to the family-owned side of things, just to get back to that experience a little bit differently. Yeah. So from there, ended up moving over here to Bone Dry Roofing. So by our estimates, we're about the second largest family-owned roofing contractor in the United States. We're hitting about 200 million, about 550 employees across all of our brands, 9 states. anywhere from Florida to Michigan over to Colorado. So love it. Customers are customers. But there are differences between the HVAC and plumbing space and the roofing space. But here I am enjoying it, helping grow another company, and that's my story.
I love it. So deep entrenched in all aspects of the industries is, I
Yeah.
think, such a valuable piece. I was talking to this new digital company came out, and they were like, "Oh, we want to talk to you." So I get on a call and I'm talking to them and I'm like, "You guys know nothing about the industry." So like you may know everything you need to know about SEO and GEO and all the alphabet soup, and I'm so impressed with that. But just knowing the industry really has so much,
Yeah.
such gives you such a leg up. So I love that you, first of all, like you had such positive things to say about these past people that you've been a part of, because I think it's such a valuable part of building where you are now. So what I've always loved about what you say, your editorial brand for yourself is, you're very focused on building the brand, and you're not just chasing every single lead.
Yeah.
And having a holistic approach to marketing strategy, just it's in my veins. I just cannot. I understand the attraction to just lead gen, lead gen, lead gen. I get it. And I know that's at the end of the day what we have to do to generate business, but understanding how it's the sum of all that
Yep.
makes the good marketing strategy is so important. So I thought today, I titled this episode Behind the Curtain, with an internal CMO. And so, day to day reality versus perceptions, I think there is a time when, especially when you have multiple brands, multiple locations, multiple states, all those good things, there has to be a place for you to have strategic leadership
Yes.
as the CMO versus a tactical firefighter, as I
Yep.
say. So, a typical day for you probably, I'm assuming, includes like just overall guidance, but a little bit of firefighting as well. And so, like, what does a day kind of look like for you?
Yeah, so I try to get in a little early. I like that. I like that 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock time frame of just being able to before the meetings start for the day, just be able to focus and get the day aligned and ready to go. The night prior, I like to review what my upcoming day looks like and catch any errors that I may have made in my calendar or anything like that. Um, but really, when it comes down to it, you have to schedule block certain things. You have to
Hmm.
set time aside to think strategically. Um, the CMO has a unique seat at the table when it comes to the executive leadership side of things, right? We're typically the one that is going to have the voice of the consumer,
Hmm.
which is obviously incredibly important in that. But I think oftentimes that can get lost, and I think that's where the brand building component and all of that comes into play. But you have to be able to set time aside to think strategically and have those conversations internally. But I'll say from a time perspective, I spend a lot of time even on the operations side, right? Digging into the data, being able to see where we may have some operational you know opportunities,
Inefficiencies. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How we can really create alignment between marketing and sales and operations, through the entire process, right? So it's fun because you don't get bored, but but it can be distracting at times, and that's where I really say the schedule blocking comes into effect. And over the years, I've learned how to when and what to turn off on my cell phone when, and just be able to focus. But your typical day will always have fires. I
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
want them to think you don't have fires. In marketing, most of the time, we're firefighters,
Yep.
right? But having an amazing team like I do, be able to tackle a lot of those and put those fires out, and be able to handle that buys me time to be able to think more strategically of where we need to go and how we're going to get there. And that's the fun stuff that I love. Yes, you get a
Yeah.
little bump of energy when you put out the fires, but
Yeah, I call it a little hit,
right,
yeah, a little something. Well, I wrote down, how to think like a consumer. So, my seat at any table, even now, in my regular job here at Lemon Seed,
Mhm.
is I always try to bring back that perspective of the consumer because, we live, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roofing, pest control, whatever business we're in, we live that every day.
Yeah,
And so we're worried about the actual sides of the business that most consumers don't experience. And so we can get really technical, we can get really in our heads about that. And so making sure that as an internal marketer and as a person that's responsible for the marketing, you always bring it back to the consumer. I did a little local show recently here for just any businesses that wanted to come. I love being an active part of my community too. So I did it and I said, listen, many of you wake up every day and you are thinking already in the wrong mindset when it comes
yeah,
down to marketing and messaging because
absolutely.
you're thinking like the business owner and you need to think like the consumer. So I love that call out. And then schedule blocking again, a lot of home service companies do not have a dedicated marketer. Not a lot of times why they end up with Lemon Seed, but they have someone on their team who's probably that is a list that marketing is a one of the bullet points on their list of things to do every day.
Right.
But one hack that you mentioned here is just schedule block like, hey, 2 hours every other day I stop and focus on marketing, which seems like a lot of time, but you need time to dig into the numbers, to look at your creative and all of that stuff. So I really love all that calling out of those two things. So, and then another thing that I always like to ask, like, how do you, in your overall strategic approach to building your companies, how do you balance brand building with demand generation?
Yeah,
It's always a loaded question, but how do you manage it?
great question. So on the demand generation side of things, I'm very in tune with what would be our capacity report. Oftentimes in the home services space, right? Your 3-day call boards, right?
Mm.
We need to bump those up. And as a marketer, and specifically as a CMO, you should know what levers you're able to pull to be able to drive on the demand gen side of things. But you always have to be thinking through, even when you think about how we answer the phone, how we communicate with our e-leads customers, how we, every piece of information that goes out there is a brand component, right? Whether we like it or not. And I think you have to have a really good balance, but you always have to be focused on the brand, right? Because every interaction is meaningful, and how meaningful you make it is going to be really impactful on how your demand gen operates. And I think one thing that we just did a terrible job of as an industry, and I say this all the time, probably anytime I get to talk to anyone, is that we did a horrible job as a home services space. We over rotated to digital marketing, right?
Mm.
And I get it. It's addicting, right? Talking about that,
Mm-hmm.
getting
Yeah.
that pump, right?
Yeah.
You like seeing the results. You like seeing the attribution side of it. And trust me,
Hmm.
as a digital marketer, and my background's primarily on digital, I love that. But how do you drive down that cost in an ever evolving and increasing cost world of digital marketing? You make sure you create a strong brand,
Yep.
right? Because you're going to be able to be the brand of choice for people before they even go down the digital funnel. And so being able to get in there, you're going to be more cost efficient. You're going to have more branded searches, which are going to be your cheapest search options, right? People are going to they're going to be able to leverage your SEO for your name popping up first, whatever, GBPs, all of that. Everything gets cheaper and better as you build a meaningful brand.
Mm.
And I think that comes across the board of the entire business. And
Yep.
so I would say in terms of balancing that, yeah, you have to be very deliberate in your overall approach, and know that you have an obligation to the company to drive leads at this time to be able to have that capacity filled, but always be viewing everything in the long-term brand window.
Yeah, absolutely. I truly believe that the longer you trust the process of
Oh yeah.
long-term brand building, it's like it just marinates and it gets better and better and better. Again, if I could just encourage, like, contractors just get really mentally blocked. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't, you have to really focus on the fact that you can build a brand and you will build it.
Yeah,
And honestly, if you don't tell people what your brand is, people will self-determine what your brand is.
absolutely.
But we,
You're going to have a brand.
Yes,
You build
again,
it or someone else.
yes, correct. And I was telling people, again, another contractor a couple of days ago, I said, listen, there's nothing wrong with a lead aggregation strategy like the e-locals, the
Well,
home advisors, all that. It's a strategy. This is my whole point. Like, this is why it's extremely hard for me to be like, oh, we are not cookie cutter templatized agency, because Lemon Seed's goal is to help you build like overall lead gen and overall brand building, and in partnering with the right partners, because every brand, every market, every budget, every owner, every culture is so different that to me, I have to look at overall, like where do you have the most opportunity? Where can you
yeah,
do the most? I love the statement about the over rotation on digital. I definitely think we indulged in that.
yeah,
And now we are addicted to it. And like right now, I mean, I think contractors wake up every day mad at their digital company.
yeah.
And I'm like, a digital company is a response marketing. So it is based off there being actual demand. So and it confuses contractors, and to me, they place blame on the wrong place, but it still happens, still happens. So, how do you decide, what matters every day? How do you prioritize every day?
Oh, that one's an easy one. I have it as a post-it note, even on my monitor. It is revenue, efficiency, everything else.
Mm, okay.
What's gonna impact revenue? What's going to drive efficiency across the business, and then everything else.
All the fun stuff has to come last.
Well, at times,
Well,
at times.
especially like new projects or something new, I think we can be distracted by shiny objects.
Oh, in this space, for sure. Like I got out of most of the Facebook groups because all it is shiny object squirrel moments. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're always trying to find that next secret, and everyone's just so is blind to the fact, and this isn't an insult at anyone, but people are blind to the fact that it comes with marketing is successful because it's done consistently over a long period of time.
Mhm.
And you create that brand by being consistent in your marketing messaging, in the customer experience, and how you then nurture them throughout the rest of the relationship, or the longevity of them being a customer. And we just keep wanting to find these silver bullets that are just going to drive more leads, more leads, more leads. That's great. Or we create a long-term sustainable scalable business.
Mm.
And I think that's where I get a little frustrated in the space, is that everyone is not uh, staying focused and staying consistent enough to be successful, and
Consistent
that's
is such a big word.
oh, it absolutely is. That's why, when you think of like top mind awareness, right? Reach and frequency, right? How many
Yep.
times do you reach them? How frequent do you reach them? Uh, that comes down to consistency. You've just got to consistently be driving the messaging and the experience.
I do a whole presentation on the silver bullet for marketing, and literally, I deflate people every time when I'm like, I have bad news for y'all. The silver bullet is consistency.
Yes.
Many of you will not be still, you won't be still with your digital provider. You won't be still with your budget. You won't be still with making sure you're holding your team accountable for KPIs. And so you're not consistently doing anything. And so I learned this in science, right? You have to have a constant.
Yep.
So before we can measure a lot of things of what's changing and what's impacting things, is I don't have anything consistent. So I don't know what moved the needle, good or bad, because everything's wild. I met with a contractor story, and this is literally how the conversation started. He was like, I'm on my fifth digital provider this year. I'm like, in 2025. So I'm like, sir, you are the problem. Immediately. Because I refuse to believe. Now, maybe, Matt, I default to good too many times. I refuse to believe that I'll even go with five um well-known agencies in the digital space that are all scumbags that are taking advantage of everyone. I refuse to believe that that's the truth. And so I'm like, there is an issue here with either our expectations, our understanding, our budget. Something is the problem. But I said, hey, whoever number 6 gets the lucky pleasure of being, they are screwed from the get-go,
Yeah.
because they have
Absolutely.
so much ground to make up,
Yep.
and you have no patience. And I'm like, you need to just be still.
Yep.
Sometimes, like, stillness should be your goal for 2026. I'm going to be still and move methodically and intentionally, and not so like a wild caged squirrel, that's out for the first time.
Everyone wants the quick wins, but these big brands in the markets, whether it be home services, retail, whatever, it's not an overnight success. It never is. If it is, it's
No.
not sustainable.
Mhm.
Uh, and typically you end up seeing that on the other side.
Yeah, so yep, absolutely. And you find out, remember social media especially is a highlight reel. It
Oh
is
hell,
everyone's best pieces, best days. And honestly, there's so many things like I can say all kinds of things on here that are true, but without any context or how I got there or anything like that. That's definitely the truth. Well, let me try to change gears for a second here. I want to talk about that you as a marketer, the systems, the dashboards, maybe even the apps. You don't necessarily have to give me actual vendors, but I'm looking for like what are you using every day? Is it your service Titan dashboard or your CRM dashboard? Is what tools have you really learned as a marketer are impactful to your job
yeah,
performance?
absolutely. So internally, I think I mentioned the capacity board for us
Yep.
internally. So we know what our first available appointment is across every market, so that we can become better marketers at that. Um, I'm a big fan of AREFs, still old school.
Mm,
That place, I love jumping in, just seeing if we've had. I pay for the daily monitoring just to see if we've seen any, you know, numbers change up, down, whatever. Just be able to catch on to those early, so I can get them to the team to make a decision. But I think ultimately, a lot of the data comes right because our focus at the end of the day is revenue, right?
mhm,
Whether it be through direct, the customer acquisition or the top of mind awareness channels, it's revenue. We need to constantly be digging in and making our own reports to be able to pull what data is important to us. I'm a big fan. I've always have been of return on marketing spend, return on ad spend, so that we can really see how our partners and channels are performing from a revenue perspective. Also, keeping in mind that there are stories behind each of them of why one may perform better than the other. One may be having a more of a top of mind impact, so it may be a blended mixed attribution type approach. But I think at the end of the day, you have to know what's important to your team and your business to be able to move it forward, and you have to be completely aligned with it and what you're looking at, so that you're also moving the company forward through that. So I didn't give you any names, but there's plenty of tools. I'm one of those with 1,000 tabs open on my
yep,
computer at any
yep.
point in time, just constantly looking at the data and where we can make the improvements
Well,
across the organization.
no, absolutely. So, this is one thing that does drive me crazy. If you and I were really working together
Yep.
and I called you and was like, hey, so let's talk about average ticket, call count, call booking rate, you can probably rattle those off
Mhm.
very quickly.
Yep.
I work with a lot of contractors. So, a lot of contractors still have to wear the marketing hat that
Yep.
cannot say they don't know. And
Yep.
so I'm like, how do you know how
Yep.
many leads we need to actually gather if you do not know average ticket and how your team is going to handle those? And so a lot of this is taking responsibility for your portion
Absolutely.
of the equation, right?
Yep.
So, like you said, you're constantly looking at your team performance, opportunities, the actual performance of your vendors. Like,
Mhm.
are my vendor partners performing? And if they're not, it's not to go eradicate them from
Right.
my strategy. It's a true partnership. Like, I need to get with my whatever digital partner, direct mail partner, billboard partner, whatever, and say, hey, this is what I'm showing, what's going on, and how can we pivot?
Yep.
It should be an open line of communication. I would be
Absolutely.
making every meeting that my partner scheduled for performance reviews. I am kind of their squeaky wheel. I don't complain all the time, but I'm constantly monitoring everything that's happened. I love the AREFs idea because digital marketing really, I think, is everybody like they are so scared of it. It changes
Right.
so quickly. And most contractors do not need to be in the driver's seat
Right.
of their
Right.
digital piece.
Well, and you know, what I like to do is each week pull the prior 2 weeks performance of the entire funnel, and I have a series of reports that I throw into a simple Google sheet that I can track. Then, okay, here's what the number of phone calls we received, web forms we received. Here's what our booking rate was. Here's what our close rate was. Here's what our appointment set rate,
Yep.
close rate, average, all of this. It's nice to be able to view. And then even off to the side, I have what our Google reviews were for the prior 2 weeks, what our NPS score was for the prior 2 weeks, and then what our referral programs have driven the last 2 weeks. And referral meaning a true, hey, refer your neighbor, you get X dollars off, whatever. So I really like looking at that entire view, because that's going to tell you the health of the organization right there. And then that enables you as a marketer to make decisions with your team.
Well, and I equate this a lot of times. Thank you for that. I equate this a lot of times to like getting blood work done, right?
Yeah.
So when you go to the doctor and they're evaluating what's going on with you, they need to see a complete picture. They
Yeah.
don't just be like, "Well, your blood pressure's high." They have to know that your blood pressure was high and you had a temperature and your white count and this and that.
Correct.
And so that's why it's important to have as much data. Data is so powerful.
It is.
And I think that separates the men from the boys a lot of times is people that solely are making decisions. And listen, this is contractors every day. You're making a decision based off your gut.
Right.
And your gut, a lot of times you might have a good direction, but wait till you see actual numbers and it really will kind of change your thoughts a lot of times.
And even worse, they're making decisions on if they were the consumer. Newsflash, probably not.
Yeah, you're not your consumer. You're
Right.
not your ideal avatar for sure.
Right.
For sure. Well, I wanted to talk about some mistakes that we think contractors make and maybe a little bit of how to fix them. Chasing tactics instead of building strategy. I think we kind of hit on that. There is a strategic approach to marketing and it's a lot of times a balance. And I know that you're managing several brands. Do you kind of have a formula that you use, or do you change that formula based off brand and where they're located and things like that?
Yeah. So specifically, like I'll give you a great example on this is our Florida market. Much higher when you look at the demographics of that, a much older demographic, much more wealthy demographic. We're in the Sarasota, Punta Gorda area, and then we have Edgewater and Titusville on the other side of the coast, and two very different clienteles in demographics. And I think when you look at it, we had to create essentially a separate social media strategy just for Florida. Because it's a different buyer, it's a different customer than what we may be accustomed to in the Midwest or even out in Colorado. A big thing people often don't think about when you're thinking multi-location is the pictures that you're sharing, right? Probably shouldn't share snow pics in Florida.
Yeah.
We probably should, even the outside, outside when, good Lord, shooting a TV commercial is next level hard when you have all different locations and you're trying to create consistency across them, because you got to get really tight shots because you can't show the wrong plant, the wrong tree, whatever, because people will call you out.
Yeah, that tree doesn't live. That tree is not native to here. Like, where were you?
Right. So,
I love that.
Yeah, there's we could go on for days
because it matters. Because even your strategies matter based on tons of different pieces, and that's why, like. Again, I see this a lot with digital sides. Digital companies are like, well, this is our secret sauce. So I'm like, hey, and as a fractional CMO for contractors, I sometimes will go in and say, hey, so while I appreciate that being how everyone starts, how have we pivoted for now my client who's in the middle of Minnesota in December versus the middle of Lufkin, Texas in December? Yep. There's got to be some pivoting somewhere. And same thing with brands, right? So your brand needs to be authentic. Yes, you can buy something, that, well, this just looks good. But to me, you got to believe in it. You got to have a story behind it so that it's not just another company, So I definitely think that's one thing. So, lack of consistent follow-up systems. So do you guys have, I'm sure you do, a robust follow-up system that you guys use for open estimates and even top of mind awareness with people that have done completed work with you?
Yeah, totally. So a couple different systems that we utilize when you're talking about email, when you're talking about re-engaging with people that have done business with us in the past. We do have a few states that are pretty they're tough when it comes to texting, so we have to stay away from that, which I would advise every contractor to go to their attorney general's website and read the texting and email laws for their individual state, because it matters. and it can get really expensive if you don't do that. But from a follow-up perspective, E-Lead's perspective, we currently utilize Hatch. They've done a phenomenal job for us creating out our campaigns and our strategies, workflows, all of that. They've been a tremendous partner for us, and we've just seen a lot of growth. When I started, probably a year in, we started the follow-up team. So I have 2 people. That's all they do is they follow up on every open estimate in the entire company. And so far, we've been able to close about $6.5 million just on the follow-up. And we've got 120-day, very tight 120-day cadence. E-Lead side, we have a very tight 7-day cadence. And our approach is very different. We are not a highly aggressive company. That's just not who we are as our DNA. And I think I want to pause there for a second, because I think a lot of people as marketers need to understand this. You have to understand your sales DNA within the organization, meaning you can't be making promises that you're not a high pressure sales organization and then you're a high pressure sales organization.
Yeah.
Or
We push the hell out of everything. Yeah.
Right. Because what you're going to do is you're going to say something that ends up being a lie in the consumer's eye. Because what they're told and what they're experienced are going to be 2 completely different things. But I can honestly say, from our perspective, not a high pressure sales organization. We probably fault to the other side of the pendulum on it, of being too patient with things. But being able to bring that sales follow-up team in, again, all our scripting is not high pressure. It's purely, we want to help. Do you have any questions? I'm here for you. I'm just another person at Bone Dry Roofing that is dedicated to make sure your experience is as amazing as possible, right? And they're just things like that that you can do to really help move the company forward. But I 100% believe in the entire follow-up side of it. And even on our newsletter cadence to our customers via email, right? Everyone has a newsletter. They're throwing their promotions in there. We don't really ever have promotions. Or special offers or anything of that nature. What we're going to do is we're just going to educate people, right? We're going to tell them what they need to look out for, checklists around the home for that season, things like that, to actually for them to have a reason of why they want to subscribe and open the newsletter. So we just try a little bit of a different approach there. And then if we need to educate them that, hey, we're going into insulation and your 30% tax credit goes away at the end of this year, let people know. But it's all about being genuine and helpful, not being sales oriented. No, people don't like being sold.
No, and they won't hang around.
Yep.
And so, limited, we always build out the offers for the quarter. And I've taught my team, an offer doesn't always have to be, 0% financing for 60 months.
Right.
We can say, hey, we're not going to have any aggressive, actual promotions, but we're going to educate on why our shingles do not get the black streaks.
Yep.
And we're going to do a whole campaign around that. So the offer, if you will, is more an educational piece, or, adding extended warranties, or adding different why you need to clean your gutters and downspouts and all these things. So,
yep.
I think promotional, people tie that in a lot of times to a dollar amount off, or,
Yes.
And sometimes it can be just what are you promoting?
Yep.
This whatever quarter, season, whatever you're doing. So I love that. So what about over reliance, which you kind of tapped into this a little bit, over reliance on one channel of advertising, which you said the over rotation of digital, but
that's a tough one, because we are humans, and when we see something working and we want to just do more and more and more and more of it. But if you don't have a diversified strategy and you're 100% relying on that lead channel, and that lead channel goes away, how's your business going to survive? And that's when I go in and look at our annual planning and what we're going to be doing for this year, next year, whatever. It's really sitting down and you've got to purposely go into it of if any of these channels goes away, where or how would we pivot, or how do we make sure our business isn't reliant on it? And and I think that's why, and it's not preached enough, that's why marketing mix is important, because your brand's never going to go away, right? That's always out there, because once you're in someone's mind, you're there, and that's free. But if you're looking at a lot of the paid channels, right, you're starting to see your search organic search results go further and further down the page as you know, like Google does more AI overviews, as they're doing
Mm-hmm.
more GBP sponsored areas, LSA at the top, right? They're pushing things down. So, okay, you shouldn't be surprised when something happens, because you should have other platforms and channels in place to be able to supplement it if needed.
Yeah, and again, when you rely so heavily on GLSA and you're like, all of a sudden, I'm not showing up anymore, and you go into panic mode, I'm like, this is why marketing is a gigantic puzzle,
Yep.
right? And so every puzzle piece is important, but the whole puzzle is built upon other things. And so
Yes.
some people have built their house on like a house of cards, basically.
Yep.
So one bad move and everything falls apart. So marketing mix, like I preach this all the time, like you've got to diversify a
Yep.
little bit to do a lot of those things. So, okay, rapid fire,
Yep.
really quick. So, one leadership lesson you learned the hard way.
I would say always care for your team, and
Mm.
genuinely, and have empathy. I think that's one that's missed a lot, and even myself, oftentimes, you know, like I make a joke, you know, you hurt my feeling, like that I only have one, and it's like it took some team members over the course of my career saying, you know, Matt, you may want to soften up a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah, you were
to
a little harsh.
really understand that, you know what, the empathy side of things is extremely important, because you need to view people as people.
Mm,
You have to genuinely love your people to be able to earn the right to lead them.
yeah, I love it. Earn the right to lead them is a really cool statement. I love that. So, what Matt wishes every contractor really understood about marketing.
It's the consistency. Yes, it is the consistency, and that your consistency and your community matters.
I love that. Okay, last one. The marketing hill that you will always die on. So it might be that one, but the marketing hill that Matt will always die on.
Community is incredibly important.
Oh, I love it. That's my love language.
They're just, you know, everyone wants to focus on leads, and I'll even throw billboards, TV, all of that in the leads category. But if you're not showing up for your community, right?
Mm,
How I said, if you don't love your team, you don't earn the right to lead them. It's same thing for your community. If you don't love your community, you don't earn the right to serve them.
yep.
And so we have to, as businesses, we have to be good corporate partners, and be able to come in and impact real meaningful change. And I think that is one hill that I absolutely will die on, because you know, you can do as many things as you want from a marketing perspective, but if you don't show up, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. And I too preach this. Like literally, Lemon Seed was born because I wanted more people to understand the power of marketing mix and
Yeah.
also including brand building, but just this boots on the ground. Literally, I say it almost every single day. Kissing babies, shaking hands, petting dogs. That's why I love a mascot. You don't have to have a mascot, but I love one. It just honestly, it just softens the barrier so
Yes.
quickly. So you don't have to have one. Like some people are like, well, that's not really me. That's cool. I'm just of the belief, like I know what's going to resonate in a community and be remembered. And I think there's power, so much power left on the table when people are just honestly, a lot of times I encourage my contractors do what everybody else won't do, which
Yep.
is invest in a team that's built for your community, invest in a brand that's built for community. So, I too can have such a strong aversion when people are like, hey, listen, I want all lead aggregators and all digital ads and let's go. I'm like, I don't know that you and I are going to get along.
Right. It's interesting, because before I came in here, I actually took a call from our general manager in Bloomington, and he wanted to reach out. And he said, Matt, I just wanted to let you know, we just got an $8,000 gutter replacement job, and we asked how they heard about us, and it was because of our partnership with the local humane society. And so that stuff is meaningful. You know, I got to give Tony Hart, who's our community engagement manager here on the marketing team, a ton of credit. You know, we helped vaccinate and microchip over 1,000 dogs this year. We've
Mm,
helped get over 100 pets adopted. We did 14 free roofs for veterans this year on Veterans Day, or at least that week. We're over, I think, 93 baseball teams that we sponsored, 20 some high schools we sponsored, and it's just all of these things. And that doesn't take into effect parades we've sponsored, one-off things, donations, all of that. Those are just things that we had a program or a process wrapped around to be able to make a meaningful impact. So all of that stuff really, really matters to people. And it all goes back to showing up for your community.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, I could talk about community all day long. So,
Sure.
love the fact, number one, that you even have a community marketing manager. Oh, Tony, I just love what his job is every day, is to engage actively in the community and give back in a healthy, honestly, let's call it what it is, a measurable way, like being able to say, we microchipped and spayed this many animals, we gave this many roofs away. And a lot of contractors are already naturally tenderhearted, so they give money anyway.
But don't have
We might as well make it, intentional and organized and structured,
Yep.
because it does have brand impact.
Yep.
For sure, for sure.
Even more so, I remember talking, where it really stuck with me is a couple of jobs ago, I was speaking with a not-for-profit that we had been partnering with for years. And I spoke with them, and they said, Matt, here's the thing. We don't have a ton of marketing dollars. You all have a good, healthy marketing budget. And they said, any time that you can talk about our organization helps us immensely, because that is supplementing the marketing dollars so that more dollars can go into our programs and our people. And that was just something that really stuck with me, of like, everyone wants to say, oh, we're just being humble here, we don't want to talk about what we're doing in the community. Well, you're not doing the charities that you've decided to partner with that are important to you. You're not doing them justice by not talking about it, because that's their natural marketing avenue. And so I think we have to be thinking about things differently.
Yep.
And how marketing really is an asset to move things forward, not only within the business, but within the community.
I'm telling you, such a powerful move that people really sleep on too much, and don't give it enough attention. Well, Matt, thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining me today. This has been super engaging, and I love it. Thank you for what you do. Just, you give back so much, just free information. So if people wanted to go follow you on socials, I know you're on LinkedIn. That's where I follow you the most. Facebook.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
LinkedIn's generally going to be the best one that I'm pretty in tune with and pretty active on. Again, Facebook, I just, for my own sanity, had to take a break from Facebook and doom scrolling. So LinkedIn will be the best place to go.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here. And again, just thank you for sharing all that you do. You're doing a fantastic job with Bone Dry. I'm obsessed with it. I love watching everything you guys do. And thank you guys for having such a powerful impact on your local communities. I think that's so important. So, and for all of you that are listening, thank you for listening to another episode of From the Yellow Chair. Go follow Matt Tyner on LinkedIn. Great content coming out from him all the time, very consistently. So, of course, consistency being the main thread here. So our encouragement, I feel like, from both of us is going to be, just focus on your marketing when you can, have intentionality behind it, get consistent, and get brand forward. And I really think, truth be told, you will excel from being consistent and being organized in your approach. Don't forget strategy before tactics. And guys, we hope you have a great rest of your week. Thanks for listening to another episode from the Yellow Chair, and we'll catch you next time.